Welcome to Season 1, Episode 7 of The Last of Us. Spot the difference between the show and the game. This one is interesting right off the bat because I believe this is just the DLC episode. Now, what that means for gamers is we would be going from fall straight into the next episode in Part 1. So we would skip over this entirely if you're just playing Part 1. Now, this DLC episode is important because it shows Ellie's journey, and we do go into Ellie's perspective in the next episode because Joel is hurt and she's taking care of him for this entire episode. And in the DLC, we get to experience that. We go to a mall where she gets supplies and she's taking care of him. Actually, you can tell now that the first second is not in a mall, so something is off. And I believe what they're doing is basically jumping the very end of the DLC plus the beginning of the next episode. And that's what we're going to see on the edges of this episode. They're basically just going to go into the flashback for the entire episode, if I'm remembering correctly. And what the game does that's really cool is you're in a mall for the present day where she's taking care of Joel. And so you're also going back and forth chronologically between her memory of being in a mall when she got bit. And so it's this really cool intermingling of her caring about Joel and her caring about her friend in the flashback and seeing Ellie in these two different experiences in a mall. Not the same mall, obviously, but this is going to be a very different experience from that. And the DLC actually has some of my favorite moments, at least my favorite line from the entire series. And what's interesting is even though most gamers are going to play the DLC after the game, even though chronologically it's in this place that's between fall and winter, because there's no place to just kind of enter it, you would have to back out of the game and then go play it. I've done it that way, and it actually feels very smooth either way that you do it. And it does a few things in the game that are actually a testing ground for 2. You can tell they do that a lot in DLCs and games. So even though it plays a little bit differently from the rest of the game, it still works really well because it is a chronological experience. So I am glad that they put the flashback here, but it doesn't really make sense without her being in a mall in the present day too. So if I'm wrong, I will eat my words, but I don't think they put that in this episode at all. It's just flashback, which is really a shame because it's a cool storytelling element. So let's move on from this for a second because yes, it is already different. Okay, so anybody who's been watching these in order, you know I've had issues with the VOD where I've been talking over it. We no longer have that. I just did a platinum run of both games, so I have some better recordings now. I have the end of fall pulled up where the last episode ended, and this is also where the DLC begins, you'll see. So just watch for a second. Watch this transition from fall to winter so that you can see how big of a difference it is for show watchers and the impact that they'll have by interrupting it with the DLC. Again, I have played it this way before, and I don't think that it's a bad thing necessarily. I think that it's actually pretty good because chronologically you get to see this part where Ellie takes care of Joel. But I don't think they even have that where they put it in the show. So it feels weird. It's like they only put it at the tail end and they don't show the entire mall experience of her getting supplies for him. So while it makes sense in the game to actually put it where it isn't, it makes less sense in the show to have the flashback there. I don't know. It's odd to me, but let's just see if I feel differently by the end of the episode. So just watch this transition real quick.
Get up, get up. You gotta tell me what to do. Come on. You gotta get up. Joel?
So see, it goes straight into winter, and that was still fall, which isn't in the game the same way. They've been in winter for a while. Or sorry, in the show the same way. They've been in winter for a while. We don't have this bunny. He's going up from his hole for the winter, ready for Christmas morning. This is completely gone. That's why I was complaining. Now you know why I was complaining about the bunnies.
This won't last very long.
Or were they bunnies? Somebody else was... Oh, yeah. Somebody else was carrying the bunnies. I was upset. So as you can see, it's Ellie in the cutscene. And I just want you to see where it gets to the gameplay.
You'll just startle it.
Cutscene's almost over. And boom. So now you can shoot...
There you are.
The deer. And that's where you start. So we will start the beginning of this in episode 8. And so anybody who plays this game for the first time has this experience. They're not going to go into the DLC, usually, unless somebody tells them to, between this part of the game. What that looks like, if you were to insert it where it belongs in the game, and if they did add it there, I think that would be cool to just be able to toggle a switch, you know? You get the recap here of what just happened
Get up, get up, get up.
in the game, though technically this is the DLC. So again, this might not just have happened. They might have finished the game and then moved on to the DLC. So they're giving you a recap so you know frame-wise where you are. And then it gives you the introduction of Ellie. She looks more or less the same, but you'll realize quickly that she's not because this is flashback. So she's a little bit young. I mean, it's only like a year younger, not even, because this is right before she meets Joel. And you realize that this is the story, if you've been paying attention again, because at the very end of the game, you hear her say, first was my friend Riley. And then there was also a conversation that she had with Tess about how she got bit in a mall. So if you were paying attention in game 1, you might have picked up on those clues. I didn't see it for a while, to be honest. So don't feel bad if you didn't. I've played this many times, so now I know. But you have this beginning section where you see her being woken up by her friend.
It was kind of awesome. You're not gonna kill me, are you?
And she's at a Fedra school. We'll see how they match this in the show. But first, they're like bringing in a part that's just inferred in the game once you've gotten to that part in Winter. So they've kind of gone backwards from where you would be in the game into part of the end of the DLC, sort of. It's confusing. So the beginning of the episode is actually pretty cool. They are showing something that is obviously inferred in the game. We don't actually see the direct aftermath where Ellie gets them to safety, and we are seeing that here. He's basically telling her to leave. You can see that right here, and telling her to ditch him because he doesn't think he's going to make it. And that's probably a good call because game or show, I honestly don't know how he lives through this. In the game, she gets him antibiotics, and I believe in the show too. And obviously she patches him up as best she can. But I mean, this went straight through him in the game. I guess in the show, he has a pretty big hit too. In the game, it's even worse where it pierces his whole body, and it must have just missed, you know, an important internal organ or something, but you'd think he would have some internal bleeding. Not a doctor, but I don't know how he lives through that. In the show, I don't think his wound is as bad, and so maybe they did that on purpose. So that might have been a smart move on their part. And we also don't get this direct aftermath. So I think that was a good little ad. It's nothing that couldn't be inferred to have happened in the game, but it is, I think, nice for the show watchers to have. Okay, so anyone who might have found me from Twitter knows that I complain a lot, but I also say a lot of nice things. So anyone who's watched the series so far knows that I actually really like Bella's acting in the whole beginning section here. Her defiance at this point in time works really well with her resolve to save Joel, regardless of what he says to her. So I just thought that this little intro was good. I just wanted to give her props for that. Like, the creepy little look that I complain about a lot also works as a very defiant look in this moment. And I think it works. That's it. Okay, but you know what doesn't work for me? Pedro. Listen, this isn't like men aren't allowed to cry, okay? Men are you should all show your feelings if you want to show your feelings. This isn't some sort of commentary on whether men should or should not show their feelings. I don't think that I get any input in that, all right? That's for the men to all decide for themselves, okay? And I don't think as a woman that it's not manly for a man to cry, okay? I just want to throw that out there before I say this. That's my big disclaimer. I think that making Joel cry here isn't necessarily a bad thing on its own, but when you pair it with how weak they've made him throughout the entirety of this season compared to the game, I just have to ask myself, why did they do this? Was that necessary to show? What did it add other than, I guess, just fear? But I feel like they could have expressed that in a number of ways, and it just feels like it's quadrupling down on making Joel look like very weak. And if I were a conspiracy theorist, if I were like, let's look from the perspective of like the anti-woke crowd for a minute, okay? Now, I'm not on any side of anything because I think groups and sides are stupid, all right? But let's look on the side of the anti-woke. They are giving them an excuse to complain about this because they are, if I were a conspiracy theorizing woman, I would say they're trying to make this man in this show look weak. And I have to wonder, what is that adding? Like, let's go from the other side. Let's say that you're pro-woke, whatever you call it. You're the other side of things, okay? Knowing what I know going into season 2, they also make Ellie look really weak at times. What does it add to make your main characters weak? And I'm not saying don't give them flaws, because flaws are good. And I appreciate when flaws are not necessarily, we rely on too many tropes in modern media these days where it's like every single time there's a weakness, it's like drug addiction or something, right? At least it's not that. But I do wonder what this adds. And when I say weak, I don't mean, it's like they're trying to make him physically and emotionally come off as someone who doesn't have the resolve to do the job because of his age, because of all the stuff. They imply a lot, and we've gone over that in previous episodes. And so I just don't know what that adds to Joel's story to paint him as this weak guy versus the guy who's afraid of his own strength. I don't know what that adds. And it's different if they have a flaw. Most weaknesses also have a strength. And we haven't seen Joel or Ellie's, I mean, we'll talk about Ellie when we get there, but we haven't seen Joel's strength on the flip side of this weakness they keep showing for him. And I feel like that's just bad character writing. That's just giving him a weakness for the sake of being like, weak man. And so, yes, the conspiracy theorist in my brain says, why are they making him a weak man? Is it to say something in society and try to paint men as weak? Or is there something else going on here? Because I haven't seen it in the writing otherwise. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If you have a thought about why they might do that, that isn't some sort of conspiracy theory like my own, feel free to voice it. I'm open to ideas on this one. I just, when analyzing it, it really bothers me. And I needed to point out that crying just did not strike me the right way. Okay, so this is interesting. You can't see it super well, but I don't want to get HBO all copyright on me. If you'll notice the first couple episodes, I had used the thumbnail atop stuff because I had it running in the background while I was talking. So I've learned my lesson here. So this is a Walkman. Those of you who are my age or older, I'm sure remember these. What's interesting is I said at the very beginning of the first episode that it started in 2003 instead of 2013 like the game, and that there may be a few references that affects. And they haven't had as many as I thought that they would, but they do have one here because we wouldn't be using a Walkman in 2013, but it does make sense for 2003. So anyway, this is Ellie with a Walkman, and she's jogging, and you're seeing more of her experience. They're giving a little bit more detail and flavor to it at the school before her friend Riley comes to get her. A flavor that didn't exist in the game because, again, you saw her wake up and her friend Riley being there. And if you're paying attention, I believe that says Fedra trainee. I don't know where they're printing in the apocalypse, but I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. But anyway, she is a soldier trainee, so that's consistent with the game. Oh, and I should add, yeah, of course, they have like some places have generators and all of this. And of course, the Fedra takeover of all of the cities, they would have had the most resources of anyone for a while. Nonetheless, putting those resources towards a printer for clothing just seems silly to me. It's weird detail. I don't know. And to clarify, they did, I'm still thinking about this in the episode, like going in the background. They did have like some metal signs that would say stuff about like rations and things and curfew. So they were using it for that, but that made a little bit more sense because you're directing people to go places and it's a bit of control of the city. And I don't really understand clothing. It's a rant that doesn't need to be had, but it's a rant that I'm having. Ooh, you know what I just thought of? So her being very defiant and then ending up basically in the principal's office.
You've never been what I call well-behaved, but the last few weeks.
Getting in trouble like this. She clearly had like some streak of troublemaker, but it was more like fun-loving troublemaker. Like she wanted to steal water guns and stuff. So come look at the game with me, because look at what she says to Riley when Riley's like, yo, come with me, let's sneak out. And Ellie, even though she has a streak of rebellion for things she wants, which I vibe with, that's kind of how I was as a kid. If I wanted something, I might break some rules, but I generally was like following rules, especially by my parents and like the authority figures that I trusted. So, and so I vibe with what she does here because she's like, well, I've got school in the morning. I've got stuff to do. I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to play by the rules at this point in time. And so she's clearly made some trouble to be at that point in time, but she's not someone who's rebellious for the sake of being rebellious. Because this girl had said, oh, your friend fights, you don't fight. And then she does fight and then ends up in trouble. It's not like fun-loving trouble like we kind of were implied here.
Let's get out of here and I'll tell you all about it.
It's almost morning, and I have military drills.
Oh, come on. When have we ever gotten into trouble?
We'll see if she repeats that in the show, but that's quite different than the one that has ended up in the principal's office here.
You've never been what I call well behaved, but the last few weeks.
Okay, so they're trying to paint her as really missing her friend Riley, because they also mentioned Riley in the scene before where she said, your friend fights for you, but she's no longer here. Now they're saying, you've always been a problem, but the last few weeks you've been worse. And so they're painting Ellie as a troublemaker who's increased her troublemaking since her friend left. This is part of like how they're very on the nose of things. Remember how I said they want crisper edges in the show? I feel like this is where they're starting to make it more clear show-wise to keep people watching. But I'm starting to feel like they don't trust their viewers. And I think it's going to get worse as the season continues. If they do the crispy edges too often, it's not just to keep people watching. I think it's because they don't trust their audience to figure it out on their own. And I maybe should have said that earlier, but it's coming to a head where I'm realizing the crispy edges are a little bit too much. Maybe a lot of too much. Oh, like we haven't gotten in trouble before? Like that's enough. We don't need 10 minutes of scenes for this. You know what I mean? Ooh, okay, so this is one of my favorite additions. This is something that, what is this, 8 or 9 or 10 of the things that I would take from show to game? We found one! They are humanizing a Fedra soldier. I like this a lot. You ready?
I care because no matter what anyone out there says or thinks,
Pausing because I know HBO is going to get mad at me for copyright, so just
the only thing holding this all together.
pausing real quick so that you can hear the whole scene. Okay, ready?
If we go down, the people in this zone will
Starve or murder each other. So he's saying, as a Fedra soldier, he really believes that he is keeping order that helps people from getting starved or murdered. It poses a lot of interesting questions about order versus chaos, and we mainly see the Fedra soldiers as the bad guys. So I like that they're humanizing them. I like that they're giving a logic to them because I think it's deserved. I think that there's something to be said for every side that we come across, every group that we come across. Like I said with the hunters and how they humanize them, this is what I was hoping for going into the TV series. For those who are like, you just wanted to be the same, which would be so boring. This is what I want. This is what they should have done. So while I don't hate having added backstory, the story itself, I think, has enough. And if they had done the back and forth like they did in the DLC, rather than doing all of this stuff and adding a whole new story, they already had that. They had conflict. They had flavor. This, oh, you keep acting like a grunt, you're going to get the life of a grunt, Ellie. You need to shape up, is just too much. Again, on the nose with the, oh, Ellie's a problem child. You can add conflict without adding it for the sake of it. It can also still add to the story and be something where the characters have agency. And this feels frivolous because they didn't bake it into the story in some way that matters. And they could have done that without ruining the characters. There is an art to adaptations. There is an art because obviously we want to see more lore and we want to see more about the characters surrounding them. That is the beauty of the TV medium. Okay, so this is a cute little Easter egg time for fans of the game. I know they show some of these things throughout the rest of the show too, but I like seeing it again here before we even get on the journey. Dinosaur, astronaut, fun book, Savage Starlight. And we don't get to explore her room in the game because it's only there in the cutscene. So I like that they paused here to give us a little bit of detail. Let's look at her room and see if we see anything, but I don't think that we do. Yeah, you can't see any specific details. You can see the moon on the wall, posters, but I don't see any of those specific mentions. Yeah, so good little ad there. They're doing even more, by the way. This show is so dark, dude. Why didn't they look how dark it is compared to me right now. Anyway, Mortal Kombat, more space stuff. Like they filled this room with details. Like I'm happy with it, but they're going on about it for sure. It's continuing. It's as much as I love it. Again, it feels like they have no sense of subtlety in this show. I don't know what's going on. The more that I watch this show, the more I realize the director is the most heavy-handed. I don't know who directed. I don't know if it was Neil or Craig or somebody else, but everything feels so heavy-handed in this show. Imagine if it was done with some subtlety, how beautiful it could be. I know that I am now complaining about something that I just complimented. It's not the content itself, because again, I like that they're putting the Easter eggs. It just feels like we've been going on and on about them.
Riley? Ow.
Okay, she gets her knife out. She's doing the exact same thing that we just saw her do in the game. What she does do that's insane, though, is it's like because I've had a lot of debates on Twitter, or I've read a lot of conversations more so, but I had one viral post and have been dealing with the show lovers who are haters against the game lovers over the last 24 hours. And so I've seen a lot. And basically their whole thing is like, you complain about anything, it doesn't matter. You just wanted them to do this and now they did it and you don't like it. There is some truth to this, but only because those people don't understand nuance and they just want to complain about us complaining. So here's the deal. Yes, they have the knife, but they also did something that's so extreme and silly. I don't want Ellie to come off as someone who's dumb and can't take care of herself at least a little bit, but I also don't want them to make her like this overpowered girl boss. You know what I mean? Like she's a child. So just watch this real quick. And I know she's in training, so it makes sense for her to have some fighting skills, but just, this is absurd. Okay, just watch. There's no way that she like kicked her to fall like that, especially since this girl has some pounds on her. I think some height too, we'll see. But how would she have physically like done that? It's like they can't have it, again, any subtlety, any chill. It's like, we're gonna show she's girl boss now. You asked us to not make her dumb. Can we just have like a nice balance of just what we saw in the game was like a nice balance? We're never gonna make it through this episode, man.
Yeah.
The reason that it makes sense that she fell there is because she's on a bunk bed and she's on top of her like very precariously, and Ellie pushes her like this. That actually like physically makes sense, right? Like you can see how somebody can fall off a bunk bed. But this, one more time. A show lover's gonna be like, it's the same thing. Like, why are you complaining? Just watch. Okay, that's not how she's gonna fly back, all right? Bunk bed made sense. This doesn't make sense. Call me a complainer. I don't care, but that's a difference and it's weird, and they could have just, they don't have to girl boss her to like be able to knock people over that she definitely cannot, all right? And they're much more the same size. She's still a little bit taller than her, but they're much more like sized the same. Like, Bella's tiny compared to this actress, you know? All right, so you know how I've been complaining about Ellie being mean and then Joel being monotone but mean and everybody just being mean? We're continuing with Riley. Here you go. Ready? Listen to the line delivery.
It was a joke, okay? I thought it would work better.
You hear the say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. All right, just listen here.
Ow.
You hear the laughing?
You're not gonna kill me, are you?
See, and then the like cute kind of sarcasm. It's like so much more lighthearted, man. This is a time where you want it to be lighthearted. It doesn't have to be this drama for the sake of drama. And we'll get to a point where I say the opposite. It's humor for the sake of humor, where it should have been drama. It just feels like they're trying. You can see the trying. It's a similar whole situation. She wakes her up. She pushes her off. It's the same thing, but you see how it comes off so differently, and it's just a hard watch because like the tonal shift, it puts you on edge. And I know that they went for more like horror vibes up front and more serious vibes, but that's why I prefer the game so much, because it has this lightheartedness to the moments between a lot of the humans where you can feel that. And that's how it would be in real life. Like, why would she be so angry? You know what I mean? This feels more human to me. They have more nuance. This is just like constant anger sass, you know? Oh yeah, so your friend is way taller. She's not kicking her like that, all right? Listen. And just so you know, the line delivery has continued to be exactly the same. This feels like an intense soap opera versus humans we could be watching. We're never making it through this episode. But okay, so the dialogue writing is just too much. They're trying to add some detail and make these scenes a little bit expanded to make them worth having at all, probably budget wise. They're squeezing the most out of every scene, and it's usually 2-person scenes in one room, and so they want to squeeze everything out. Versus here, maybe it wasn't as much of a concern, right, in an animated style. So they had a quick scene and then you move on and you have a lot of conversations while they're exploring. And so they're trying to squeeze that into these moments that are a lot more boring setting wise versus, you know, walking around and being on edge while you're playing the game. So they, again, try to infuse more conflict, but they do this by, again, erasing a lot of the humanity and believability to their characters, because here it's like these words that you would say to someone back and forth. It doesn't feel like a big long monologue. where it's all like pre-planned, pre-written. It doesn't feel scripted, right? They're coming to realizations, and they're also infusing little jokes here and there, like, oh, I had to sleep under the smelly girl. Just stuff people would do in a conversation, especially with her trying to get her friend to come with her and try to show her a good time. And we know that's her goal looking back in hindsight, so we can see why her behavior is the way she is. She's like, hey, like, I want to take you on an outing. She's trying to be cool. She's not trying to say she's sorry. She has her reasons, and we'll see it. So you can see this happiness within them of her returning that we didn't see in the scene in the show.
45 days? Well, 46, technically. Want to know what I've been up to?
I should fucking stab you. All this time, I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate your mercy.
Here. Look.
Are you okay?
I'm fine, I just...
No way.
Still no roommate?
ran away for a bit, that's all.
I had to sleep under Liz for 3 years, and you know how bad that girl smelled.
You're a firefly.
I joined the Fireflies.
Oh, fuck you. I'm not in the mood for this, Riley. I'm really not in the mood.
You still have it up. What?
Wait, who gave you the black eye?
What are you doing?
I'm making sure I don't get caught with a firefly in my room.
Relax.
Tell me where you were.
Give me a name and I'll
There are no soldiers on the entire floor.
fuck them up.
It was Bethany. Here, congrats.
Hey,
And I already fucked her up.
are we cool?
Where were you?
Constant bickering monologue between them. So they turned the stinky roommate line into the stuff about the fight. So at least it kind of came back up between them, but
You're gonna say no, but then you have to say yes.
it's like a monologue. First you're gonna say no, then I'm gonna tell you everything, but first it just feels like everything is so scripted. And I understand it's a TV show, so of course it's scripted, but the game just felt more human. Whereas this is like actual bickering. Their romantic interest, for anyone who doesn't know, this you can kind of see it. Like you can see, even if you don't see it, you just see like friendship banter. You see that, right? Here, you wouldn't even think they like each other. You know what I mean? It's just like mean bickering. And if anything, it feels more familial, where she's legitimately mad at her. So much drama, over melodramatic. That's the word we're looking for. I just don't know why they wrote it this way, because they had such a fun tone here, and it just makes it so fun to relive over and over. Where here, I don't want to relive. I don't want to watch this again. It's just bickering. I don't want to see that. That's like when people come at me and they're like, oh, you're just miserable looking at all the spots of difference. Bro, I'm out here laughing. I'm having a good time. Like, that's what I do in my stream. It's just like everything that I do, I want to be a good time. I don't want to watch this melodrama version of The Last of Us. I want to watch 2 gets very, very, very dark and serious, and it's a whole long emotional journey. But there are these upbeat moments that keep you going, that infuse the humanity into it. And this whole show just feels extremely and consistently one note. That's exhausting. It's exhausting to watch these episodes. And not the exhausting like playing Last of Us 2 the game. I will say Last of Us 1 is a little less like emotionally taxing. It's not like that, because the emotional taxing to me still has so much fun in it, you know? And I know, yes, it's a game, so it's going to be more fun. But just the dialogue has like lightness that we just never get here. It just feels constantly intense. This is interesting. If any fans that might be more knowledgeable than me or observe something that I've missed, I don't think they ever talk about what happened to her eyebrow in the game that I can think of. Those who don't know, Ellie has a little slit in her eyebrow from game 1. So she explains it here. So this is the kind of stuff where I was hoping the show would go. Explain things, explain details that we didn't have in the game, and give us new lore without breaking the old lore, so that we could have just one big melting pot of beautiful canon. And instead we get this lore that we can't even decide even belongs in the game, because it's constantly changed. So, but this is cool, and this is where I wanted the show to go. So listen.
No, thanks. I'd like to keep my other eyebrow in one piece.
That's cool. We don't get a ton, but we know that something that they did that was troublemaking at a 7-Eleven messed up her eyebrow. I think that's cool. I wish that they would continue to expand upon the lore and the details that we already know from the game. Okay, so this is just a cute little Easter egg. It's a difference from the game technically because it's like it doesn't happen at this very second because this very second doesn't exist in the game. Nonetheless, I think this is cool because anybody who's played the game knows, and especially if you played it on PlayStation the way you should. I get if you play it on PC because you don't have a PlayStation, that's understandable. But if you have the option, play it on PlayStation. You shake the controller when the flashlight starts going out on you. So this happened in the show, and I thought that was a cool, just like Joel with having to reload his revolver during the clicker scene at the museum earlier in the season. This is another good little nod to the game, which I thought was nice.
Oh.
So her having to shake the flashlight. Good stuff. Okay, so I won't show you here, but because this is already going to be such a long one, but they are having a little more fun in their conversations as they go towards the mall. So I will give them credit for at least trying to have a little bit more of a high point. It just still feels like something's missing here. I don't feel the humanity in it, but I wanted to give them at least a half a point for trying to make it slightly more lighthearted and have more banter instead of bickering. But even the banter is bickering. I don't know. It would be cool to see any real level of friendship, and I'm just not getting that from this. I feel like I'm talking myself out of this even being a good thing. And the wildest part is they already had a script that worked. Why did they change it? They could have just gone word for word what was in the game, and everything that they needed to communicate would have already been communicated without the melodrama. It's in like pure darkness. You can't even see what's happening on the screen. To me, I'm not seeing any benefit to where they changed it. They want to communicate, okay, they have friendship, they have banter. And then they give Ellie higher stakes in the show because, again, show people need more of that because they don't have gameplay. A little more conflict, but again, they could have made the conflict more related to the main story in some way. They did add Fedra humanity while doing it. So there's these pieces here, and I can see where some things made sense. Yet again, they didn't have to change the dialogue. It's just angering game people for no reason, like me, who's like, this is not the conversation that they had, and I don't see as much humanity in it. We could have all been happy if they'd just given us the dialogue that they already had. This is the upside. This is the downside. I see no upside to the way that they have scripted it in the show. Okay, so I want to show you something that I didn't point out in episode 1 that I've noticed prevalent throughout the series, and I've called it out in some other episodes. We're going to go back to episode 1, and I'm going to show you. Just look at her face. Look at Ellie's face in a second. Are you ready? Is he dead? Yeah.
Is this the big surprise?
Why would that be the big surprise? Creepy. Okay. All right, Ellie. But look at her face. Okay, I've paused on it, and I'm going to try to let it lighten up if I don't touch it for a second so you can actually see her face. The way that she's staring at the dead guy is so creepy. She's so fascinated by violence and death, which is not something that's in the game at all. This just feels like they're writing her as this psychotic villain who is obsessed with violence. And there's a scene in episode 1 where they did this, and at the time that I recorded the first episode, I was like, I like the writing at the end a little bit, and then I kind of went back on it. I was like, well, I don't love that they had a whole important conversation while Joel was busy. I didn't love that part, but overall, I thought that the concept of them adding in a new character was cool. But here's where I didn't find it cool. Later on, when I remembered it, I recalled it as I'm seeing the patterns throughout the rest of the season of her giving this creepy little look to every piece of violence. Okay, you see how, like, Joel's punching that guy? She has the same creepy little look. Look, she's fascinated by it. And this is the same look. I just want you to note it, that we're going to see multiple times in season 2. It's like a psychotic break. It's a dissociation where she's interested in the violence. I don't know why they've made her a creep. There's no good reason for it. Now we're not going to be able to relate to her. Most people don't have a fascination with violence like this. It made more sense to have her on this journey of being a kid, being kind of terrified of different things, but trying to be as survivalist as she can along the way. She just wants to be accepted and be part of things. Where in this, it feels like she's vying for different things because she's fascinated with violence. And so instead of giving her this consistent character of loving those around her and wanting to be approved of by those around her while also being a little nerd, it's like she's fascinated by violence. How is that better? That couldn't be more not My Last of Us. This guy looks more like Tommy than Tommy. Why is it that the dead people and the zombies in the show look more like the main characters in the show than who they cast? You guys are gonna be like, that doesn't look like Tommy. It looks more like Tommy than the guy that they cast as him. Tell you what. Okay, so they're sharing a bottle of alcohol right here. This does happen in the game. It doesn't have to if you don't go in the tent. This is a, what's it called? Optional. There is a place in the game that you can do this.
Man, guy used to be handsome.
Bingo. Want some?
So this gave the player actually
Sure.
a choice of whether they wanted to drink it. And it was like this cute moment where they're going through somebody they used to know stuff. Winston, I think. And it just gives them more agency because Riley actually looked for it. You know what I mean? Versus this was just like they stumbled on it with the dead guy. It just, again, feels darker. This was a more lighthearted, oh, we're just going through his stuff. Like, we're just being silly. We're just being kids. Whereas here, they took this bottle off a dead guy who mixed this with pills. And they go, oh, I think he knows what he was doing. He didn't know not to mix. Everything has to be so dark in this. And this was just kids playing around, you know? So it's the same, but tonally very, very different. What did I say about the fascination with violence? Every single episode, I'm pretty sure in the show, Ellie's trying to get her hands on a weapon. It's something where they do it occasionally in the game and she wants to protect herself. She wants the approval of those around her. But Ellie in the show is obsessed. She asks it every single episode, if not twice in every episode, or takes one somewhere. Exhausting. It's like, why? Why can't she just be a normal kid? Why do you have to make her a psychopath just to show people TV show people? Are you okay? I feel like they're projecting onto you their insecurities of, will anybody watch this? Just tell a good story. You don't have to use gimmicks. And if you do, you're probably only getting the TikTok brained people. Is that really the audience you want? The answer is yes, they want money. Listen, they could have made the game people happy. If I were not making these videos, I would have stopped watching already. Well, this and because I have my community who wanted to see my reaction. So I watched all of these episodes at the beginning for my community, all the first season. But second season, if I hadn't already stopped watching, I would 100% have stopped watching in season 2. I actually haven't watched anything past the first episode still, even though I've seen multiple scenes from the first, after the first episode of season 2. I would never watch them, to be honest, if it weren't for the series that I've already started. And of course, wanting to be able to talk about it because I play the games all the time. I need to be able to talk to it because people are going to come in and talk about it. And I just would not continue watching the show. It's just so frustrating as a game player. And that's not how all media works. I was a big fan of the Hunger Games back in the day, and those movies were great, even though they had changes because adaptations do. You know, there's understandable media changes. There's understandable changes in general. I wouldn't have made this Spot the Difference series if the changes weren't so prevalently annoying. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be worth it. I would just enjoy, you know, and it wouldn't be a big deal. There's a world where that could have been this show, where there, of course, would be some changes, but they wouldn't be a big deal because they'd be staying true to the essence of the game. But we've seen how much they're changing in tone and characters. I just wish they'd made new characters. I complained about Until Dawn being completely new characters, and I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'd rather them do that if they're going to change everything that much than to do this and just make us upset. What I'm trying to say is they went for the TikTok brained people for this show, and I'm not saying that everybody likes it as TikTok brained. I'm just saying that's the way that they wrote it to keep everybody's interest nonstop, all right? Versus, even though I think it's kind of boring, listen, because they were trying to add enough layers that people would keep watching. Let's make her psychotic so that people wonder what she's gonna do. When's she gonna flip the switch? Is she gonna turn that gun around and murder her friend right now? Don't know. Like, they're keeping you on edge. Versus in the game, you're on edge because you're obviously playing the game, but the story is still so good even without the gameplay. This is a fun game to stream because the story's so beautiful and there's an emotional ride and an emotional journey for people who aren't playing the game. I love watching people play this game. So this is really showing me where TV's gotten to. Her being obsessed with a gun every episode is just unnecessary. And a kid in this world might not have some fascination with weapons, especially if they have a propensity for something, but they just take everything to 100 in weird ways, again, to create this air of unease like you have in the game to some degree. But it's in a way that sacrifices Ellie as a character. Okay, they do something like this in season 2, and when I call it out, you'll know what I mean, except they do it much worse. So what happened? You started dating some Firefly dude? It's like they try to throw you off the scent of there being the gay, but in a way that feels disrespectful to the gay. Does that make any sense? In the game, you might not realize until it gets there that there's romantic interest between these two. You might think it's friendship, like I was saying before. But they add in these lines trying to convince you that the girl that's not Ellie is straight. And I don't really know what that's about. I don't know if it's just to throw you off the scent to create a little bit of conflict in your brain if you're picking up on signals. It just feels like they are constantly inserting lines to erase and ruin the moment between two people that like each other. And they are doing that throughout the series. And I don't think they just do it in romantic interest scenarios either. I will point it out if it happens even between the familial relationship of Ellie and Joel, but it's even more frustrating because if they're going to tell the gay story, they should do it right. I don't know why they're doing it in this way where it feels like they're trying to prove something, and I don't know what they're trying to prove, but I don't like it, and it feels forced. Oh, and it continues. Watch. The line gets worse.
Yep, that's it. We're getting married.
What is that? I don't understand why they added that in. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't add anything to their dynamic. If anything, it creates a barrier to where their dynamic is going, and not in a way that's fun. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I find these lines to be antithetical to everything that is in the rest of the episode. There's something that is triggering my brain to not like this. Okay, so they added like a rooftop jumping scene here, which was interesting. Watch. I mean, you can't see anything because this show is just the darkest show I've ever watched in my life. That wasn't in the game, but I feel like it adds like a little thrilling element that you would have in the game while you're playing. So I appreciate that. I think that's one of those changes where I think it works. Maybe I'm crazy, but they could just show some of the gameplay. God forbid they show us an encounter. But I do think that was an interesting way to do it. I want to see if they show the beautiful rooftop like this, though. Once again, this is the darkest show I have ever watched. Why is it so dark? But if you can see any of it, this is their view. I would say out of all, the beauty of a show is that they can come up with some cool cinematography, and this area is beautiful.
Man, sorry.
And this is what we get. Couple really dark rooftops. I don't know, man. Like I said, I like some good foreshadowing. But again, this is just way too on the nose. That place is sealed off for a reason. It's full of infected. The writing here, the smallest sprinkle of subtlety in the foreshadowing would be phenomenal. They don't trust y'all to be able to figure anything out in this show, man. Whereas in the game at that moment, they're having this really good background conversation that doesn't match the lore in the show, where Ellie and Marlene very much knew each other, and Marlene knows of Ellie and had been looking out for her from afar. It almost seems like a coincidence that happened to Ellie, and Marlene happened to know of her, but she wasn't looking out for her. The game made it make a lot more sense.
Hey, so maybe I should join the Fireflies.
Ellie says this in the game. She just wants to be accepted. She doesn't particularly care about the groups, right? She just wants to be with the people she loves. Show Ellie.
Fireflies blowing up the storage depot didn't help.
She says right here, like in a way, Fedra kind of holds everything together. So you can see here that Ellie's pro-Fedra and anti-Firefly to her core.
Fireflies blowing up the storage depot didn't help.
Hey, so maybe I should join the Fireflies.
They're introducing conflict for no other reason than for conflict. In the game, everything they do is related to the character's internal processing. A lot of agency, a lot of decision making, everything fits their character. And to be fair, there's a little bit of this fitting Ellie's character still, but they make Ellie's character really mean. And her friend, Riley, soon after this says, as much as I like to argue with your stubborn butt, versus here, they're having a good time. And they have their differences, but in character. There's layers to it. They're two very different people, but they don't have to put them on this Romeo and Juliet plotline as significantly. They can have it more nuanced while still showing the conflict. And so there's actually more layers in this. Ellie doesn't like the Fireflies. She made that clear a couple scenes ago, but she just wants to be with her friend. And so that's where Riley, a few seconds later, says that was the first thing I asked Marlene. And Marlene didn't want her to be a part of it, showing how Marlene's protecting her. We don't know that yet in the game, technically. I mean, you probably played part 1 before this, so you do know. But nonetheless, it's those crisp edges again. again, no sense of subtlety, and sacrificing this character of wanting to be accepted for this psychotic character who's mean and thinks she's right. That's not the Ellie we know. Ellie doesn't want to be right. She wants to be accepted. That's two very different characters. Whereas her friend does want to be right. Here, they both want to be on the right side of history. They're just on different sides, which is, in my eyes, less fun. I do like the trope of like being on different sides, but I like that they had different angles to that, a layered angle in the game. And by taking that away, they have to add in all this false conflict, you know? It's just silly. Why are they so mean?
See a door, go through it, wait.
Riley's mean too.
No. Fucking turn right.
Look at this.
Open the door, tell me when you're there.
Why? Here, I'll show you what they do in the game.
So, turns out, the whole city has power. They just flip the circuit breakers. All you gotta do is flip it back.
Turn right, open the door, tell me when you're there.
That's a little bit of a different conversation, isn't it? It's like they're enjoying each other's company or something. I don't know. Crazy concept. Okay, so I thought this was clever writing. I was about to say that they're doing the flashlight shaking thing too much, and again, they're just overwriting. But I think they added the first one, not just as an Easter egg to the game, but because they wanted this cool cinematic moment, and I approve of it. I think that this was good writing, good cinematic writing. And that's another thing that they do medium difference that I think makes sense when you're going to make changes, some of them to do it as a cinematic experience. And so, not that it couldn't also be done in the game this way, but just watch.
Come on.
Having her shaking her flashlight and then the lights coming on, that's a pretty cool visual experience. And they had to do something here, and I'll show you how they do it in the game, to try to have the same emotional effect as they do in the game, even though it's different. I also realized just now, the black eye thing is a great way to show Ellie in two different times at the same time and be able to interweave the present day, because they would have really easily been able to flip between the two and know which Ellie is which. So it makes me wonder if they wrote that in initially partially to be able to jump back and forth between timelines and then didn't do it. Okay, see, it does look really cool right here. This is what a girl hopes for when she's watching a live action show versus animated, because I love live action over animated most of the time, which is why this show disappoints me so much. I will say this is a great time to point out that in the game, again, we are flipping back and forth between the present day where she's taking care of Joel. We missed a lot of that so far in the game. That was nice interweaving. You would have those layers so they wouldn't have to create these weird new layers that don't make any sense to the story and take away from Ellie's character, if anything. So just watch this transition. Look at her child like Wonder Man. Instead of just being mean to her, man. So this is why I'm upset.
What did I tell you?
Wait, so the whole mall is lit up?
Let's go find out.
So it gives you this little moment, but that's nothing like the moment that's coming. And both are, I will say, both are cool. I think that the show turning on the lights slowly towards her as she's shaking her flashlight is a really cool cinematic. They even have some details of like real stores like Gap and stuff. That's kind of interesting. Actually worked at Gap once upon a time, a long time ago. I think both are good. I think both are valid. This is one of those times where I don't think it's better or worse. I think it's just a good difference that works for the other medium and could be in either one, could be in either one. And I think it's good. The thing that I complain most about is the childlike wonder and the fighting, but I think the actual visuals are very cool in both.
I know what you're trying to do, and I'm really glad that you're not dead.
I didn't realize they had this moment here. The timing's all different, isn't it? A heart to heart instead of the being mean.
Bet you started it.
And see how even when they're cursing at each other, they're smiling and laughing. That's banter versus bickering, right? Banter's funny and lighthearted. Bickering's mean. Go! I don't know, man.
Are you ready?
Totally.
She's like, ready? Totally. And then...
Are you kidding?
And they leave you hanging. They leave you hanging, and it's pretty cool, I will say. They bring you back to the present day. And this is the hospital. She's trying to get to that helicopter. So she's looking everywhere you would think. Like she goes to a pharmacy too. She's looking for stuff for Joel to bandage him up So when we come back to the flashback, imagine having an encounter, man. Imagine actually seeing this doesn't exist in the show because we don't have any of this present day. We don't see present day Ellie doing things. It's pretty upsetting because this back and forth is cool. That would have been good for the black eye. We can tell in the game because she's wearing two different things and she's alone versus with a friend. But that would have been a good visual signal, I think, because they would have a whole lot more facial zooming in the show because they focus on that more versus, in the game they're focused the gameplay when it flips back.
Totally. Are you kidding?
Told you.
It's cool that they showed her face and then you get to see it this way. That's smart cinematography. And I'm not saying that the show didn't also do some fun, smart cinematography here, but I'm starting to change my mind that I think this one's better because of the way that they showed her face and the light on her face and then made you wait for a while and then had you come back. And it just feels warm. This feels warm and inviting and cute. And this feels eerie. So this is cool, but I take it back. I like the game better still. It's such a special moment, the way that they do the storytelling here. This is the beauty of the game. It's missing in the show. It just is. All right. The magic. I just want to show you something because I noticed it as I went forward in the show a few seconds. Just watch Ellie's reaction, her excitement here.
Totally. Are you kidding?
Look how excited she is, right? Look at that face. She's blown away. This is not the same face. There's a similar emotion, but look at the excitement exuding. And this is animated, right? A human should make a similarly nuanced face. She's excited and wonder. There's wonderment. This just looks like... I'm sorry, I gave Bella props earlier, but I'm going to give her the opposite. This is where I don't know if I agree that she's a good actress. This is one of those moments because what is this? She could have looked excited, but she could be looking at anything. You don't necessarily know that she's looking at something good in this. That's what I'm trying to say. Wonderment, not wonderment. All right, I'm about to bring up a Last of Us 2 VOD because they just actually did a Last of Us 2 mention, an Easter egg, if you will, that they brought into 1. Probably any fan that's played 2 knows exactly what's happening here. Listen real quick. I can only show you 1 second because between the song and the show, somebody's going to try to claim me, all right? But listen.
Moving!
Did you hear that? Okay, I'm just going to tell you. They're playing Take On Me, all right?
Talking away. I don't know what I'm to say.
This is one of the most memorable scenes in the game, and it's also optional. Anybody who's played it knows exactly what this is. Over here, they're playing it in the background in the DLC in Season 1. So I just thought that was a nice Easter egg. Just wanted to call it out. I don't think Take On Me is ever used in Game 1, but a cute little Easter egg they did here. However, the OG type of version, it's fast-paced. It's not the cute version. I don't know if she's going to sing that exact song to her in the show or not yet. I know that she does do that scene, but I don't know if she does that song. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting little Easter egg. There is now wonderment, but it's a totally different kind and a different pace. And I'm just exhausted of all the changes. At least they're having fun now. I'll give them that. Just a quick aside to say I think they did great with the set of the mall. It looks amazing. That's it. Just props to the set people and the set designers. While it looks completely and utterly different than the game, this is one of those things where you would maybe expect it in a set like this. Have some little Easter eggs for us here and there, but I think with something like this is where I was expecting more shifts and changes, as in some sets here and there. And I think this one was just done really well. So yeah. The way that they establish Ellie and Riley's relationship in the game is, cute, subtle. You see friendship, you see a little bit of flirtation in their banter. And the way when they get serious, it's because, Ellie's legitimately wants to spend time with her and is upset that she left. And you can see that there's maybe a little bit more than friendship there, but it's not on the nose. Here, nothing. I was just trying to imagine you wearing that, talking about lingerie. And again, these are kids too. So that makes it just an uncomfortable watch for these lines, and they were going from being really silly to this, and while kids are silly and say stuff, I don't know how much this feels realistic to me. It feels like a weird thing to add. An adult wrote that, you know what I mean? Versus here, it's much more fun-loving and doesn't ever get weird. This just feels like too adult a theme for children, talking about lingerie. I just feel like they didn't have to go that far with it to show that there's romantic interest. Again, it's such a lack of subtlety that they made it kind of gross. So I feel like they could have just left it at a lot simpler tactics to show the audience what's going on. And they could have also just stuck to showing here instead of telling. That's what would have been nice, I think. There could have been microfacial expressions, little looks as they pass the lingerie if they really wanted to insert that, which again didn't exist in the game. They didn't have to go all out and say this. They just can't leave well enough alone. Okay, so she has this little moment right after where Ellie's fixing her hair in the reflection. That would have been enough. That would have been enough. They do this scene. It's just at a different time than the one here that you saw. There you go. Just at a different point in time, because they've kind of mixed everything up since there's no present day to balance it out and flip through. The melancholy is killing me, man. The scene is so slow, whereas in the game it was so fun and so cute, and it was just the right timing and speed to keep you interested and invested in everything that's going on. And this just goes on, and I don't even know why she's making this sad face. It's just melancholy. They just got to make the melancholy, you know? I'm gonna stop pausing, I think. Hopefully. A lot of this, I think, is gonna be the same, and so I won't repeat any more about the melancholy, but I just need to show that this doesn't happen in the game. They're very happy. Chloe. And it's just light and fun, and you kind of look around, and it's quick. This is just going on forever. Okay, so they did a good job with the photo booth. It looks like exactly the same, and they had a very similar moment where they make poses and take pictures, so they did well with that. But they printed the pictures, which is interesting. Don't hate it. I mean, it just is a whatever change, but it's just different, and so we're pointing it out. But it was cool in the game. They have it where you can share on Facebook, and if you choose to share, it does bring up a share menu, which is really cool, and it won't print. This is just a big benefit to the game medium over the show medium, because it can do funny stuff like that. Okay, this is as close to the center as I got during this playthrough of where they nail it in the game. They did phenomenal with that view right there. This might be one of the few things in the show that really looks way better than the game. The game looks beautiful too. I've taken some great pictures here, and I just don't go to the center in this playthrough for you to see it well, but nonetheless, it still doesn't look like this. This is a beautiful scene of them looking at the arcade this way, so I just wanted to listen. It's different, and I'm giving the show props. People who just think I complain all day. They also show the lights reflecting on their faces like they do in the game. Really well done. Once they're in there, you can see light reflecting, especially when, see, just light reflecting. Really good job with adding those elements. Okay, so they made a big change here that I actually I think this might be around the 10th or 11th thing I would put in the game. They actually have the arcade working. And the fact that they said this is an emergency broadcast, a little nod to the fact that they've actually had an emergency. I don't know if they have this moment. We're going to find out, where she's playing the game. Stylish. Riley's telling her the game story, and Ellie's pretending in this scene, but the games aren't actually working. So I don't know if they do that or not. Like, you can see some of the lights, but nothing's actually working. I actually really like this change, but let's see if they still have that moment where Riley feeds her imagination there, because that was a really cute moment. Oh, there's a giraffe. Giraffe plushie, I told you, if you've been following the episodes. Lots of giraffe plushies in here, actually. Yeah,
First,
there you go.
you have to choose your character. You're playing as the unstoppable, claw-wielding, yet drop-dead gorgeous Angel Knife.
Okay, I'm gonna keep watching the show and see if she does this moment, because it's cute. They break into the coin machine and get coins to play the games and everything. I don't know. If you're a game fan, do you like this change? Okay, so here's why they showed Mortal Kombat on her wall earlier, because she had this exact poster and now she gets to play this game. So I think that's special. As much as I love seeing Ellie get her dream of playing the games, this was a special moment of her friend telling her the story as she pretends to play the game. So it kind of takes away from that moment they have there. But Riley said she spent an hour breaking open the coin machine for them to do this. If any other game fans have a thought about this, let me know. Okay, so I know you can't see this because, again, this show is so dark. Speaking of the opposite of dark. My son's coming. My son, the sun is starting to hit me really hard. So I'm gonna have to close the curtain in a second. But in the game, they show that same guy. Oh, did you see him? Oh, well, I lost him. I think it's also in a doll store because this looks like a dollhouse. So come with me. He's actually dead in the game. He's not a threat. And Ellie finds something we need in the game on him.
Don't come to life. Don't come to life. Nothing. Where is it?
She gets the key we need for another room. And so he's important, but he's dead. And in the show, he's coming to life. So it's giving you a foreboding right here. Because again, they don't trust viewers to just put the pieces together. But this is one benefit to having a show where you don't have to stay in one perspective the whole time, because they can kind of back up the camera and show you this like they did. You know, we would get scared and we would actually have encounters. Here, it's like they just show them to you. But again, this is in the present day. So it's like they're giving you zombies and they're giving you excitement and fighting in the present day. Whereas in the flashback sequence, they're just having fun. There's no zombies until the very end. And so it's more balanced because they do the present day. So they almost had to do this as a change because they aren't giving you any encounters in the present day. And again, I don't know why they didn't show the present day, because it's a really good story of Ellie becoming very protective of Joel. And we got to see that's why they focus so much at the beginning on showing Joel telling her to leave and her not leaving. But they could have also just, instead of again telling us, showed us by her journey of risking her life multiple times to get what she needs to save his life. It has so many fun zombie encounters they could have done. So this is trying to make up for not having zombie encounters in the present day, and I would rather have that. But hey, I guess take whatever zombies you can get in the show. Okay, I was looking for something and I just wanted to point out something that I found in the present day, because we miss a lot of Ellie's journey in figuring out how to fight people by herself. She kills a lot of people in the DLC, like a lot in self-defense. She doesn't have that in the show, so you don't realize how fast thinking Ellie is. They don't have that in the show, so you don't get to see Ellie's journey and going from her first kill to many, many more and how she gets there. This is a journey. It's the first time you play as Ellie chronologically, technically. In the game, you'll normally, like I said, play this after, and the gameplay is slightly different with some things that are added for 2. But you get to see her really take on a lot. They don't add this into the show at all, even in her winter portion where you play her. There's so many combat sequences, some of the best of the game. The hardest one of the game is actually the hardest 2 of the game are Ellie. The hardest stealth and the hardest combat. And both of those will be in the next episode. Well, one of them's not in the next episode, to be fair. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out as I look for something else. Oh, some other fun stuff in the present day is a whole side story she finds with, if you've seen me skipping through this at all, she finds these notes and these recordings, and she gets these little side story flavors that just don't even exist in the show. They built out, I don't know if I mentioned in the last episode, there's this really dark story in the sewers that we don't have, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago. They're just not including all of that. And I feel like I'm coming back to this with a vengeance from the other episodes, realizing how much really is lost in these. So I just wanted to point out some present day stuff, since it's just not even in the show. Oh yeah, there's a recording. This is, I think, the end of the story here, this side story. Okay, so here you can see that she's in the Halloween store. Up until here, pretty much everything's the same. There's some timing differences, and they go into this whole conversation about Fedra and how Ellie's so anti-Firefly and all this stuff that isn't as intense or crisp edges in the game. It's more decisive on Riley's part, whereas Ellie wants her to either stay or wants to go with her, right? Ellie in the game doesn't care about any of that, really. And there's this whole other plot about how Riley was getting duty somewhere she didn't like and wasn't going to have any real power in Fedra. And so there's just this whole dynamic that they create here, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. Because again, they're just creating more conflict, and there's a lot of melodramatic moments that they do differently in the game, but the story beats overall are the same. They do the pun book and a couple other things. We've made it to the Halloween store, and I wanted to point out that this is at the end. This is where they get bitten in the show, but in the game, they get bit as they're running and fighting. They're running for their lives. And I don't know why they didn't do that, because it added an intensity to the moment that we didn't have in the show, because I don't even think they had their water gun fight, actually. Okay, so I just checked. They don't have the water gun scene and they don't have the bricks hitting the car window scene. So, you know, gamification elements and stuff. I guess that's fine, but they were very memorable moments in the game. So it's unfortunate that they had all of this melodrama where Ellie runs away and everybody's upset rather than fun. It just serves the story beats differently, and I'm not crazy about it. They're in the Halloween store and they don't even have some of the fun moments that you have. You go through it very slowly, and it's at the very beginning of the game versus the show where it's at the end here, and this is where they're going to get bit. So they're going to dance here to the same song. So they did good with that. The dancing scene is great. They're dancing to the same song. There's a lot of similarities here. Now, here's where the difference comes in. Are you ready? Okay, I teased you. It's not yet, but they're not using the masks in the dance scene in the game, just so you know. But get ready. Here's the big shift, okay? Watch the game scene. Are you ready? So she gives her a firefighter pendant. Doesn't even say she's not leaving. Again, the game's great at showing, not telling. Then they kiss, and then...
But I don't think Marlene's gonna go.
Wait.
And they start running, all right? There's a whole running scene. I think we go back to the present day here, but let's just... And there's a whole big encounter. It's like one of the hardest encounters of the entire game is this final encounter with the present day Ellie. Now, back in the flashback, here we go.
Out here, the door! This way. Ellie!
What about our backpacks?
Fuck the backpacks! Shit! Ellie, you with me?
You were both running.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. Keep running.
Now, this is very Tess-esque, is it not? Very Tess. This is exactly the same way that Tess gets bit. Room that doesn't exist in the show.
Reach up! I got you!
Hold on. Give me your hand.
How like violent everything was and intense and just the falling and the almost out, and you're like, oh my god, we're gonna make it. And then
I think it's clear.
pumping. And you're playing this, so your heart's pumping even more.
Ellie. Ellie, your arm.
Oh, they're trying to wipe it off, man.
No.
Okay, now my favorite line of the entire game is coming up after this, but I'm going to show you what they do in the show, because this is a huge change, and it's like, again, we're going to call it budget, right? Instead of doing a whole scene where they're running from zombies, could have been awesome. I need you to see what they do. Now remember, you saw like dozens of zombies. Here's what happens in the show. One singular zombie takes them out. So that's cool. Listen, I know it's a budget thing. They want to design really good zombies, and so that costs money. But again, I'm going to present the same question I presented before. Would you rather one high quality zombie or a bunch of lower quality zombies? Because it just doesn't seem reasonable that they're struggling that much with one zombie. It's just not the same at all compared to the game. I mean, they've established that in the show that they're a lot more dangerous, I guess. So whatever, but it's definitely not as heart pumping, I'll tell you what. Okay, so they got the same bites in the exact same spots from one zombie, okay. But it's different timing because right here, they actually about to jump back to present day for the first time since the beginning of the episode. Whereas in the game, present day is already done other than like the very last second. So they're about to, I feel like that's weird timing because they're delaying what's going to happen here, and I think they're trying to create drama. Again, they're creating drama from timing rather than actually having encounters. One zombie, no people, dozens of zombies, dozens of people. Seeing that gameplay on the screen would be awesome, you know? Okay, so I just watched this part of the show and they do the exact line that I love. I'm going to show it to you in the game instead. She does a good job with it, the actress for Riley. I'll show it to you in the game instead so I don't get, attacked by Max. But they do pretty much the same line read, and I didn't think that they did. So I'm glad that they do. I'm pleasantly surprised there that they include my very favorite line in the game. The difference is what they do it visually over, okay? So get ready for this because you can see as she's saying it, she's just with Ellie, right? They're just having this moment right here with her and Ellie. But look at it over here, okay? This is where a big change and shift in the way that they're storytelling between the two. Because, again, they show versus tell so well. I'm going to interrupt this real quick. Ellie's breaking pots right here and is being really angry. They do this in the show, too. However, they have her breaking glass instead, which isn't terrible. I mean, that hardly matters. That's a detail that hardly matters, though I'm calling it out. But what's cool is if you've played the games, you've probably broken a lot of glass. I know I break like all of the glass I see. It's an obsession. It's a problem. It's a problem I have. So I thought that was a nice little Easter egg that they made it glass. Back to what I was saying, though. The line delivery, again, was pretty good. But here's what it was over.
The way I see it, we got two options. Option one, we take the easy way out. It's quick and painless. I'm not a fan of option one. Two, we fight.
Fight for what? We're gonna turn into one of those things.
There are a million ways we should have died before today. And a million ways we can die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. I don't want to give that up. My vote? Let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together.
What's option 3?
Sorry. Come on. Let's get out of here.
That, like, every time that gets me, dude. It's so good. The timing, the music, the putting it over the present day with Joel, where she's saying, we fight, whether it's 2 minutes, 2 days, to have that time with one another. We don't give up. And you see her figuring out, after all of the fighting we've done in the present day to get what we need. We finally found it in the helicopter. We get what we need to save Joel. There's even a moment that we don't have in the helicopter, if I can find it, before even the final heavy fight.
I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go.
And just listen to the game's use of music. So this, right? This makes it so earned when you get to that last line and you see her fighting for Joel. We've seen her literally fighting for Joel. She had to climb up on this precarious thing to get into that helicopter you saw to get the first aid kit to help him. And it's not earned in the show because the only thing that we see in the show, I'll show you. So at least they do the lines more or less almost the same as what I just showed you in the game. So I'm at least thankful for that. But it doesn't have the same depth. There's none of the layers with the music and showing Joel and having this exhaustion after fighting through it and multiple zombies running away from in the flashback and then fighting in present day. You just feel it so earned, and it doesn't feel as heavy in this. It was one zombie. It's going back and forth, but it wasn't, the talking wasn't overlaid with the music to then boom, you see that Naughty Dog symbol and you're just, it's just so well done with the emotional resonance it has that the show just doesn't have, even with near exact same delivery. They did really well. Like, this actress did really well at portraying almost the same emotional beats the way that they were delivered in the game with these final lines. Just painful. It's painful because it was so close to having the same emotional resonance, and it just, for those reasons, it didn't. For those reasons, I'm out. Yeah, she just finds what she needs in the house. That's not earned. Like, what? She had to go to a mall and then get them out to go to a house, get to safety in. But she went to the mall to find supplies for him. And she just finds it. She just happens to find it in the house. Oh, big coinky dink. Okay. All right. Unearned. I feel like I take back what I said at the beginning. There's just nothing earned there. She stays, but at no risk to herself. Okay. They put the same music here at the end where she was suturing him up. It's the exact same song, but the desperation at the end where she's suturing him, but she has what she needs, it doesn't have the same impact without the words on top. So it just doesn't have the same emotional resonance. It doesn't feel earned, but it's overall kind of the same story beat. I don't know. There was just something, this end felt so much more powerful. I did not think that the DLC episode will be likely my longest episode so far. But hey, this show is full of surprises. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you can see the next one. I'm Mad Curious, and I will see you then.